Whether you keep them in your home or love to see them in theirs, these are the creatures that bring us all together.
Reptiles. We're going to be delving into the experiences of reptile lovers from around the block and around the world. This is the Reptile Talk Podcast. Boom. What is going on, everybody? This is Jeremy Turgeon from Brassman Reptiles.
And I'm Rob, and I'm creeping it real.
That's the perfect opening to Rob. Hey, I'm just saying, if you watched the Brian Barczyk video from the Durham show, you saw that Reptile Talk hat on a Brian Barczyk video.
I'm just saying.
That means Rob is famous and our hat is famous because it was on a Barczyk video. That's what that means, isn't it? That's what it means.
This is like my third Barczyk video.
Oh, friggin' celebrity over here.
So what's good, man? How you doing?
I'm chilling, man. It's been a day to bust ass in the snake room, just get a whole bunch of things cleaned and pair up some stuff, and yeah, been the usual. How about you?
Today was my day off, so I just hung out and went to the furniture store with Kristen to pick out some furniture and went grocery shopping and then came back home.
Hey, I dig that.
Not very reptile-y of me, but
it's okay. It's all right.
I do think that my ocelot jungle jag just ovulated though, so.
Hey, that's right. That is right. Okay, so before we even talk about who our guest is, I want to just throw this in there. Mitch McLean, hopefully I'm saying this right, with the super chat to kick it off. We appreciate that, man. Thank you very much. So I'm super stoked about tonight's episode, because if you don't know who this person is, you have been living under a rock for a really long period of time, or you started getting into reptiles when he was living life not doing reptiles as much, but regardless. I'm super excited to talk with Matt tonight. Before I bring him on, I do, just because it's already been mentioned in the comments, I want to bring up the latest U.S. ARC alert. It is a federal alert, which means it affects all of us. And it's a Lacey Act amendment that is being shoved in a very large bill. But basically, it would reverse the federal lawsuit that we won protecting our ability to transport large constrictor snakes over state lines for shipping and all that stuff. It would reverse that. So please go to usarc.org, read about that. You can find the alert all over their social media. I'm sure within the next few weeks we'll end up doing another podcast with Phil, because if this is how January's going, we're definitely going to be wanting to talk with him a bit more so we know what's going on. So now that that's out of the way, everybody checking us out on YouTube and Facebook, thank you so much. As always, feel free to drop us a super chat, ask a question, just make a shout out. I don't know, whatever, as long as it's not too obscene, we'll read it live. And yeah, without further ado, we're going to bring Matt on here to talk about, African fat-tailed geckos, I think it is. What's up, dude?
What's up, man? Actually,
How's
I
it
did
going?
read African fat tails for a while, so.
Oh, so perfect. So we're good.
Yeah, exactly. So we're good. I can definitely, talk about that a little bit. No, everything's good. Yeah. It's been a crazy year so far, that we can talk a little bit about, since actually it came out today. So that'll be cool. And one of the reasons why I got to see Rob again for the first time in a while. So let's do this.
Heck yeah. So before we dive into the really juicy stuff that we definitely want to talk about, for those of you who might not know who Matt is, we're going to have Matt tell you who he is, besides Matt, because you already know that his name is Matt.
Yeah. Oh, that one's difficult. All right. So basically,
who are you?
I used to do leopard geckos on a large scale and created a lot of first of their kinds in the world. Had some signature lines, stuff like that, before some stuff went a little bit sideways. But I've been, keeping reptiles for a long time, probably close to 20 years now. Started working at a pet store whenever I was little, just like, or not little, but whenever I was a teenager. And, you know, stuff kind of grew from there. And it's been a really cool ride. Got to meet some really cool people along the way, have some really good friends like you two, and, you know, do a bunch of different things with reptiles, not just in the private sector, but in the AZA community as well. So it's been fun. It's been fun.
You're one of the few that has been able to reach both sides of the aisle there, the AZA community and the private sector. That's usually a no-no.
It's usually a no-no. And it definitely, from my standpoint, it is hard to get into certain accredited zoos because of what I did in the private sector. So it is very interesting. You definitely, and this isn't like all AZA zoos, because there's some really, you know, great people at AZA zoos that are really okay with the private sector. Actually, where we were just at Virginia Zoo, you know, he was very gracious in showing us around, and it was awesome. And I wish that, you know, more AZA accredited facilities and keepers would work with the private sector more, and vice versa. I'm not saying all the private sector people, because we all know that there's some that shouldn't work with zoos. But
Rob's look was just like, burn people.
yeah, exactly. So, but the thing with private sector people is, like, they usually fall in love with one species, and they know everything there is to know about that species. And, you know, the AZA sector just can't do that, because they have to have an eclectic collection, and they don't get to specialize a lot of the time. So I think if the two could work together, like, a lot of things could be done. Even in like laws and regulations and stuff like that. It would behoove both of them to work together, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Bam. Okay. So I want to, and I know you've probably talked about this a million times, but the clown leopard gecko project, when I was growing up, and the G project, right, when I was growing up and going to the White Plains shows, and you just had this huge spread of crazy leopard geckos, I just remember, like, not even wanting to talk to you, because I was like, I don't know what to say other than, like, that's a bitchin' gecko, bro. Like, and then was afraid to know the price tag. But so that project, I mean, I think anybody who's, if you don't know what the clown project or the G project is with leopard geckos, you should Google it, take a look at some of those pictures, realize that those are like Matt's animals. Look at that Adeline image.
Yeah. That is.
So where did that project kind of like come from?
Okay, so originally, so you have to take it back. So it was basically, there was the G project first, and then the clown project. They are two separate things, but they it's kind of like in ball pythons, how, you know, everybody's trying to make combinations of all the different crazy stuff. It was basically, you know, combinations along the way that made both of them. So basically it all originated with my mentor Alberto. He would get stuff from Ron Tremper and then kind of handpick what he wanted, sell the rest, and then he was working on a few projects that were like high color. The Jungle Giants was his thing. And basically along the way, he was trying to create a solid orange gecko without using hypo. And he started throwing in like red stripe and Jungle Giants, and basically made what's considered a patternless stripe or a rainbow stripe. And from those animals is kind of where like the G project kind of started. And that project that he was doing actually turned out that we kind of reverse engineered the raptors and the eclipses as well. So it basically went from like Jungle Giants, red stripes, into this like melting pot of all these different like polygenetic genetics. And from there, I kind of selectively bred out to make the G project, which, you know, a lot of people like at first thought that it meant green. It actually didn't. It was kind of a play on an old Gatorade commercial, whenever Gatorade went to just being G instead of Gatorade. And I was like, that's kind of cool. They just like made it a letter instead of like this name. So that's why it just was G, and it didn't mean green, but it actually was kind of like Gatorade in a way, where there's all these different flavors and stuff like that. I just thought it would be like kind of a cool selling point, that you could literally take this project and go in 15 million directions with it. And then, it kind of became a signature thing for me to have those. And then, like any other thing that's polygenetic, people get it, they outcross it, they bastardize it. And then it's like, okay, well, I don't even want to work on my own project anymore, because like, everybody's trying to sell these G project animals that really aren't like even related to mine. So that's whenever the project kind of went in a couple different directions. There was more high contrast ones, and then those ones were crossed into like electric line animals. And that is where the clown project actually came from. So a little bit more backstory. My friend Alberto kind of had a falling out with another gecko person at the time. Not really going to name her name, but she was in charge of one of the the gecko forums back in the day. And I, working with these animals, knew how some of the genetics worked, and the people on that forum didn't agree so much with what I discovered. And that always, you think Facebook groups are bad, but like back then it was even worse, because it's like a website, and the people that controlled the website controlled the narrative of what was going on. So at one point I literally told them they could all kiss my ass, and literally showed a picture of my bare ass on there, and I was banned for life. So that's how a lot of this started. So yeah,
freaking mic drop.
Yeah, bam. And I was like, all right, well, I just burned that bridge pretty fucking hard. How am I going to market myself whenever I'm creating all these first of their kinds in the world? How am I going to release them and stuff like that? So I went to, social media in other ways, saw what Barcheck was doing with YouTube. I was like, wonder if people would want to watch me just clean gecko shit. And that turned into the YouTube channel that, got a lot of popularity. And people still come up to me today and be like, your videos are the reason why I got into leopard geckos. And then, that's a really cool thing for me, because it's kind of like, that legacy part that I was kind of one of the original pioneers in leopard geckos to make it into different social media platforms. And I was the first and probably only guy to not have a traditional website and used Facebook as my website. And this is back in the day whenever you could actually still sell animals on there and stuff like that. And it's like, why am I going to have a website that I have to pay for and then still direct people to it, whenever I can post stuff on Facebook and all of a sudden 20,000 people can see it? So it was kind of using the technology that was out there at the time to create all this stuff. So now we go back into how the clown project was, invented, if you will, or came about. Like I said, I had these, more bold patterned G project cross things. And from there, I crossed an electric male into those, kind of got like these weird looking animals. And I was like, there's something here that I could actually work on, added some bold stripe to it. So the original electric male was actually named FK, which stood for fuck the person's name. And it was like, that was one of those things that never really was released either, until like later on. And then I was like, well, what the hell am I going to name this thing? And I was like, I'm going to name it the Clown Project, because it rolls off the tongue, and you kind of get it from the ball pythons. They've got their clown, mutation. And I was like, but mine's going to mean something different. And it basically meant that I thought the person that I basically took her line and used it against her was a clown. So it was basically a play on words of how I felt about the situation, and how I made her line better by adding other stuff to it that was already from a previous line. So that's where the Clown Project really comes from. And it's funny because everybody's like, oh, Clown Project. And, behind the scenes, I'm giggling. I'm like, hee, hee, hee. Like, I know what it actually means. And with creating a lot of these things, I did get to name a lot of stuff, and some of the names are plays on words. Like whenever Ron Tremper came out with the Galaxy, that was actually a thing that Alberto had created 4 years prior. So whenever I had the same animal plus white and yellow gene to it, I called it the universe because a universe is bigger than a galaxy. So it was like a play on what he named it to kind of name mine something that meant something a little bit better. And I always kind of did that. I was always into the marketing aspect of how can I make it coin a term that like makes it a little bit different than what's already out there. And that's part of the game, I think, especially whenever you get to a certain level, is you got to make that signature thing that people could say one word and they're like, oh, that, yeah. And then that's why now with the clown project and the reinvention of it, because technically there's not clown project animals like true ones out there except for like a male and a female that I have. All the ones that were kind of released and sold a lot of them were crosses. So people took crosses of the project and then kind of made their own thing, but they're still calling them clown in a lot of aspects. So now I'm doing the same thing with animals that I've gotten from certain people that I know are from at least crosses from my original bloodline, because I know how it works as far as the polygenetic stuff goes with it. And those animals are getting crossed into other things. And so now the Clown 2.0, I did a release that I'm calling it the Joker.
The Joker.
Which
so what you're saying is there's lots of drama in the gecko community.
Yeah. And some of the naming is due to the drama of said things. And yeah, and then the Joker, it just kind of fits too, because like I've went through some shit in my life in the past 6-7 years, and the Joker from Suicide Squad I can really relate to in a lot of ways, how he's like fucking demented and crazy and shit. And it just seemed like a cool way to have a 2.0 is like taking something that was cool to begin with and then adding other shit to it to just make it even crazier. So that's where it kind of came from. And like you guys both know, like every time that the Joker is portrayed in a movie, it's that person's spin on it. So that's kind of like the double meaning of it. And there's obviously another meaning that I won't tell anybody until later.
we gotta have about 5 years go by and then have him back. Be like, okay,
yeah, exactly, and be like, so what did the Joker really mean? And yeah, then I'll tell everybody.
Amazing. I want to highlight this comment because it was actually something I was going to bring up already. This is Josh Ortiz is in the house. Matt's YouTube videos were great. Watched them about 10 years ago when I was really into leopard gecko breeding. His collection cleaning video with the shop vac was pretty impressive. Then he continued in another comment and said, I still have no idea how he was that efficient. I would have accidentally vacuumed up a couple geckos for sure.
Yep. It's I could do I got it down to doing 45 tubs in 30 minutes pretty easily.
Which is
and it was
insane.
Yeah, and that's quick. That's moving. And it was probably even less than 30 minutes, but that's how much I would like give myself mentally. And that's while I'm watching SportsCenter on TV. So half the time I'd be looking up, watching TV and vacuuming, and that's cleaning, watering, feeding, and putting them back. So that's moving, because I have the the Animal Plastic 45 tub racks, and I would go through a rack every half an hour pretty easily. Yeah,
that's freaking crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot of muscle memory, and it's like a lot of it is too, like you have to have stuff like very close to reach it. So I'd always have, I'm right-handed, so I'd always have the head of the vacuum to my right, and the vacuum was actually on a it was on a switch that was a power strip. So all I would have to do is and there was like a thing that actually held the head of the vacuum. So as I'm picking it up and coming over to my right, I would actually hit the switch at the same time, and that would turn on the vacuum, and then I would go blah 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 blah, and then hit the switch on the way back over as I put it back down. So it was all like one motion. It was, it was just, it's all about efficiency whenever like you have 2,000, 3,000 babies like that you have to take care of. You gotta do it quick. So yeah.
No leopard geckos were harmed in the making of these videos.
Exactly. Except for that one. So I have this one video where a gecko falls from a tub from like, maybe 6 levels up or 7 levels up, and I got fucking murdered for it. It was and it landed on like a carpet. And it's like, I put them back, and
dude,
like back then I didn't edit anything, so it was like one take and that was it.
Yeah, dude, that's when you should have used the vacuum. You could have sucked it back up in midair and got it right back into the tub.
Did some like bartender flair stuff where I just like toss him back up by his tail. He just fucking flops in there and just walks away.
Dude, jeez.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Dude, so fast forward a little bit to modern times, and you're getting back into the leopard gecko thing. But you've also got a lot of other stuff that you keep. You keep some varanids, some Morelia, some chondros.
Yeah.
So you've got quite the diverse collection now. What
what
made you go in that direction?
Don't forget the monkey tail skinks too.
And the monkey tail skinks. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's Rob. There's a funny story that I didn't tell you regarding his monkey tail skinks that we'll talk about after. Involving that one that you got.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Tell me about it then too.
Well, you already know about it. It's just the way I'm phrasing it might not click. But just regarding with what was told to you versus what actually happened.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
I think I talked to Rob a little bit about that too.
Oh, so. Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we're just monkey tail skinks. I'm up to 20 of them right now, which is a lot for most people. That's outside of a zoo, that's probably easily top 10 amount of them in the country, I would think. But monkey tail skink people are kind of weird too, where like there could be like a collection out there I just don't know about.
Just horrors.
So it's weird because like a lot of the stuff that I got into that's harder, it is based on working with stuff at zoos that it was almost like a chip on my shoulder to do it in my own personal collection instead of like at a zoo, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's why I have some of the harder stuff. And I think if I were able to get babies from emeralds, the green trees, any of my 4 monitor species, and the monkey tails, that's a accomplishment, I think, that not too many people could probably say they did. So that's the goal, is eventually be able to have babies from all 4, and then kind of just to say I did, because I've always been known as a leopard gecko like breeder, and which was great and all, but at the end of the day, like I think you guys both want to do this as well, is like you want to be known as a good like herpetologist, like you want to be known as a good reptile keeper, and not be known for just one species or anything like that. You guys like want to be an all-around good reptile keeper, and that's a lot of my goal for a lot of this stuff, is not just to be labeled as a leopard gecko breeder, I guess. So yeah.
Heck yeah, dude.
Yeah, dude, it's so weird because if you were to just tell people, oh yeah, well I breed leopard geckos, a lot of people who keep other stuff might be like, they might feel some type of way about it if they didn't know you. And then you're like, oh no, I got McRae, and like Pracinas, and I got monkey tail skinks and other stuff too. It's just, like with a lot of people, the leopard geckos and some of those easier species will pay the bill. So it's like,
Yep, exactly. And it's like, yeah, and I kind of got that whenever I was working with the leopard geckos, but it's, whenever I was doing leopard geckos, you got to remember, I was doing other things too. It's just that it wasn't that popular, if you will, because Alberto was really into Australian species. So, I've bred 4 different species of knobtails. I've bred like the little diplodactylus stuff. Like I've bred 4 or 5 different species of cave geckos. Some of the frog-eyed geckos, the fat tails. At one point, I had every single mutation of fat tails, and then I worked with them for a year, and I was like, "Yeah, these suck. I don't want to work with these anymore." So then I got rid of them. And then I actually, whenever I sold them, I got enough money to get the Hardwickie, and I was the second person in the country to have Hardwickie and breed them. So, so yeah, like, so that was cooler than any fat tail gecko. You know, Zulu ghost, whatever. Like, you know, saying that you were the second one to produce anything in the U.S. That's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Damn, that's right. I forgot about you having the Hardwickie. Damn.
Yeah, because that was actually, speaking of Brian Barczyk, I actually got to have him come to my house. So
listen, he would have came to mine if I wasn't sick with the nasties. So
the nasties. Yeah, but I was on Snake Bites TV, so like I was way back in the day.
Whoa, buddy. Me too.
Yeah.
Me too, but I had a mustache. It was a different time.
That's true. It was a different time. We were all different back then. Yep.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, that was always cool because like I've known Brian for a long time and got to see his transformation over the years and stuff like that. And you know, some of the hate like from before might have been like slightly warranted through a lens, but I think what he's doing now is fucking amazing. You know, he's definitely evolved over the years, and like the Reptarium's fucking awesome. I mean, shout out to the Reptarium. It's cool as hell, and like you know, I wish I could have something like that someday. It would be amazing to be able to like teach people and you know, show them that reptiles aren't, you know, slimy, scary things. And then unlike AZA zoos, be able to get them out so people can actually like, you know, touch them and handle them and stuff. So
true. Unlike
AZA's downfall.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
It is.
Exactly. So so for people who don't know, Matt's also the reason why Brian Barczyk went through a leopard gecko phase that has lasted many years.
Still going through a leopard gecko phase.
That was all because of this guy right here.
Yeah.
And that was how many leopard geckos did you start him off with? Because I know all of a sudden he went from like, I think I might, you know, get a box of leopard geckos to suddenly having like 2,000 breeding leopard geckos.
Well, I think so it was like, I'm pretty sure it was like a Tinley Park show that like, because whenever I used to do Tinley, like living in Pennsylvania, I would just drive to Barczyk's place, stay overnight with him, and then the next morning we would all go to Tinley together. And you know, it was one of those things. I think I took a bunch of them to Tinley with me, and I think it was right around the time that I was like getting ready to move or something. It might have been the year before, but I think it was right around the time I was getting ready to move and I was downsizing anyway. And you know, most people should know with leopard geckos, you can go from freaking 100 of them to 10,000 of them in like 3 years if you really like, less than 3 years, probably 2 years, if you really wanted to. And you know, probably the initial one was, you know, between 100 and 200 animals, I would think. I don't know the exact number.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where, you know, I gave him a bunch for some other things, you know, in return. And yeah, that's what he started with. And then he basically like held back, I think, everything he produced that first year. And then from there, like bred those. And I'm like, Brian, do you realize how many that's going to be? Like, that's going to be a lot of freaking animals, dude. Like, you are going to kill 3 employees doing that. So, and I think, you know, now he's definitely like calmed down because he sees how many they actually will produce. And you know, it's like Rob said, it's pretty easy to do. So
yeah, I remember talking to him after, I think it was like that first massive year of production when he was starting to sell the stuff, where he's like, I don't think I ever want to do this again, like on this number and at this number. And I was like, I'm not surprised. I'm surprised it took you this long to come to that moment.
Yeah, because it's like what people don't realize is like the more you produce, the more you have to feed, and it's like you don't want to grow all those animals up to 30 grams because you already have so much money into them with food, especially if you're wholesaling like he was at the time. So it's one of those things where like it can be very profitable, or you could lose your butt like producing leopard geckos. So with me, like I would always weed out the cheap stuff early and not even really grow it up. There's always wholesalers that would want it. And especially like projects that were test breeding certain genetics or whatever, you get rid of those early because like there's no need to raise them up. Let somebody else do that for you.
Yeah, for sure. Sheesh. Shout
Yeah.
out to you, Brian Barczyk, for your crazy leopard gecko desires. So I want to run this ad for our sponsor really quick, and then I want to talk about this awesome jaunt that you got to take with Barczyk to North Carolina. So
All right, sounds good.
Really quick. Y'all hang tight. We'll be back in about 90 seconds. Black Box Cages, located in Buford, Georgia, is your one-stop shop for all of your caging and rack needs. Owners Jen and Clint are at the helm of this fantastic company. With one of the shortest lead times in cage and rack manufacturing, Black Box can satisfy anyone's needs. From baby racks to V70s, arboreal and terrestrial caging to deep-fronted bioactive enclosures. You can find everything you need right here. New enclosure sizes and products are added frequently to their availability, so be sure to check back often. Black Box Cages have tons of customizing options for lighting and heating. Along with that, cages and racks can be stacked with metal stacking dowels, and all cage joints are dadoed for improved durability and stability. Most cage units are flat packed, but are pre-assembled prior to shipping to ensure a solid build every time. The Micro, XC18, XT3, Bio-G, and 3-stack V70 ship assembled, and all other racks are shipped freight and assembled. The XR16 and XR20 model racks allow keepers to mix and match tubs. Fitting both Vision and Freedom Breeder tubs, you can mix the V15, V18, and V35S tubs, or the FB5, FB8, and FB35CV SC tubs. This kind of flexibility allows keepers to raise their animals from hatchling to juvenile or subadult size before needing to upgrade into adult caging. Don't just take our word for it. Go to their website to see countless customer reviews and review videos from keepers all over. To learn more about Black Box Cages, follow them on Facebook and Instagram at Black Box Cages, and of course their website, www.blackboxcages.com. Links to their socials and website will be available in the podcast description. Bam. So massive shout out again to Black Box Cages. I've finished setting up most of my cages that they made for me for these Amazon tree boas, and I'm absolutely loving them. So go check them out. Tell them you heard about them on the Reptile Talk podcast. Heck yeah, go get some dope ass cages. All right, before we jump into this topic, just want to give a shout out to Jay Hill Jr. for the super chat. Support USARK, and cheers to Reptile Talk, and cheers to you, man. And absolutely, we want to be supporting USARK. We mentioned at the beginning of the show what's going on. Of course, North Carolina is still dealing with our stuff. We have 2 more days for public comment for the North Carolina tegu ban and native species importation changes and all that stuff. So please go over to usark.org and check out what they have posted there. 2 more days. That's all we got left for public comment. So we need everybody on board for that. Okay, so Matt, we got you and I got a phone call about doing some filming with Mr. Barczyk, Mr. Man.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Down here in North Carolina, and unfortunately, it didn't happen the first time because of coronavirus. So it got scrubbed.
Oh, I mean, honestly, we got invited in December is whenever it was supposed to happen, and then then it got pushed off to the first of the year, and then it was then the Rona, and then it actually happened. So it was a long process for sure.
It definitely was. And then so the last time when it actually happened, I had the Rona. So I couldn't take part, and you guys couldn't come hang, which I was super bummed about. But thank God I'm better now. So just come back, just come on.
Back anytime.
Down,
anytime.
But so for me, not that bad of a drive. It was like I think about 3 hours would have been my drive. I was chilling. I was cool. But you and Brian had like well into many digits of hours of drive.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Luckily, so when I was first coming out for the first attempt of getting out there, right as I was about to turn on the highway, Brian called me and was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm driving." He's like, "Cool, you should turn around." And I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. But you were like way more into the drive. You were a couple hours in at that time, right?
So basically, yeah, the story basically goes like we actually were gonna go a day later than Brian. Brian was already down there, obviously.
Right.
And then I have a car, and my whole thing that I was responsible for was some huge reticulated pythons from Nerd. So I actually had to rent a car, and then I was on my way up to Nerd, and Brian gave me a call, and he's like, dude, like I tested positive, but as of right now, the shoot is still on, and he was like, you're gonna have to do it without me, and I'm like, fuck, because honestly, like, this was more of a like me helping a friend out. Like I didn't want any like credit for doing it, and I'm sure you're the same way. And this was like Brian's like thing, and like the whole way up to Nerd, I'm like, motherfucker, like this sucks so bad for him. And honestly, like, I just felt awful. So I get up to Nerd, and of course, like I get there and stuff starts to get interesting. Like from, getting the snakes, because I was like, all right, I need 3 reticulated pythons, big, friendly, and when was the last time they ate? And they're all looking around like, when do we feed these guys last? And I'm like, Jesus Christ, guys, come on. Like, you got to know, like, when you fed them last. Finally, like, Kevin comes, and then we get, like, stuff situated and get these animals packed up. And, they were, that part was easy. And then we had to take them from upstairs to downstairs to load them in the car. And they're heavy, and it's, cold and icy out. And so that was fun.
New England.
New England. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, New England. So get in the car, start driving down the road, get another call from Barcheck. Barcheck's like, turn around, take the snakes back, like it's been postponed. And I'm like, motherfucker. Because basically what I was going to do, so I live in Connecticut, and it's like 2 hours, 15 minutes to get to Nerd, and that's north, the opposite fucking direction of where I needed to go. And then I was going to come back down to my place, and kind of start the drive from there. So, fast forward another week, you have COVID. I get a call from Brian on Tuesday, and he's like, hey, the shoot's this Friday. Can you do it? And I'm like, let me go tell work to fuck off real quick. And then, let's do this. So, like basically I asked work, and they were really cool about it, because like they know that this was in the process for a while, and they also thought that it was a cool opportunity for me to go do this, and went and rented a car that lunch break. So Wednesday drove up to Nerd, got the snakes packed, came back down to my place. And if you live in the Northeast, you don't want to be going through New York City anytime between like 4 and 6. So I was like, well, let me just hang out here. Yeah, exactly.
Anytime. Yeah.
let me just hang out here, and I'll make sure that the car stays warm, like because I'm not lugging them all the way into the house and then just to lug them out back again, because one of the snakes that I had was probably 100 pounds. It was the big albino retic from Nerd, so it's probably 100 pounds ish. And got back home, kind of did last minute things on the animals, stuff like that, and then headed out. My son actually lives like an hour and a half away, and I actually stopped by his place because it was kind of on the way. And I was like, just kind of, give him a hug, say goodbye, got to go do MrBeast. And he was like, that's so cool, Daddy. Like, bring me back an autograph. And, so
weird because he's 27 years old, so he doesn't talk. He doesn't need to talk like that.
Yeah, exactly. No, he's not that old. He's only 10. So I'm not that old. Everybody's trying to make me out to be fucking old as shit. I'm only 40. I'm a man. I'm 40. So stopped by there, gave him a hug, continued on the road, got down to Delaware, and was like, it's midnight. And I'm like, and that was kind of the goal, was get halfway and then get a hotel room. So got a hotel room, brought the animals in, next morning, bring the animals back out, drive the remaining like 7 hours back down there. And, you want to hit it so you're not hitting DC traffic either. So like, it's all about timing, like trying to make that drive. And got down there around like, I think it was like 2:30, and at this point Barchek was already at because he had gone down the day before, tested negative. He got to go to the studio because he had to check out the set, make sure it was all good for the snakes, because that's our biggest thing whenever we do stuff like this, that probably a lot of people don't understand. It's not about like, it's about, making sure the animals are good too. Like we got to, do what's best for the animals and stuff. And that's the cool part about the MrBeast situation, is they don't use them as like a scare thing, which you guys can all go watch the video. Like, it's one of those things that it would scare a lot of people, but they're not portraying them as like these monsters that are gonna fucking kill you, which is awesome, because like their audience is like 10 to 15 probably is like their biggest audience. So the more we can portray them in a good light, like the better off it's gonna be. But anyway, I get down there. I go COVID test first because Barchek's at the studio, and then I was going to meet him at the hotel. So I go meet him at the hotel, and he's 5 minutes out, and I'm like, I'm going to wait for him to get these snakes in because like they're heavy and I could use some help. So I'm waiting, and then all of a sudden he pulls in, and he's like, "What you doing for the next couple days?" And I'm like, why? Because we were supposed to shoot Friday, be home Saturday, and like that's what I was planning on. This was Thursday, I think. I don't even remember what fucking day it was. It was Thursday, because I did a lot of the drive Wednesday, Thursday, I get down. So he's like, yeah, like they want to shoot on Monday instead because they're still not ready. And I'm like, well, I guess we're staying here for the weekend then. The MrBeast crew is very good. They put us up in a nice hotel and stuff. Actually, the hotel that we went to originally, they didn't have internet, so the Wi-Fi was down. So Barchek's a daily vlogger, and he's like, I can't live like this. So we switched hotels, which that's kind of like some of the Hollywood in today's video. Like that actually wasn't the hotel we actually stayed at. Which is funny because like later on, whenever the snakes are coming out of the building, you can tell it's a different hotel, but like probably most people will, they won't see that. But
there definitely should have been a clip of Brian like, there's no Wi-Fi, I can't live like this, what is going on?
Are we in some third world country? What the hell? So
just mooning the Hilton or whatever the hotel was.
Yeah. Well, no, we went to the Hilton. The Hilton was fucking, it was nice.
Okay, all right, good.
Nice.
Shout out to you, Hilton. You let Brian live
exactly. So we get to the new hotel, get everything taken care of. And then, because the snakes had to stay a couple extra days, we made some the MrBeast staff made some adjustments so that they could be housed more comfortably. Let's put it that way. They weren't in the small tubs the whole time, which was amazing. Like I said, they were world class the whole way. They actually built enclosures for some of the bigger snakes, which is pretty fucking awesome.
I can put them in the bathroom, like filled up the bathtub and close the door.
Yeah.
Put a little thing on the door that says "Staff don't come in here."
Yeah.
Exactly. You will get a big surprise if you come in here.
Yeah. Do not disturb.
So that part was like really, really awesome for them to do. They even they cranked up the heat in that room to make it comfortable for the snakes. So that was awesome. And then the other thing was, we had to kill Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So, and Brian vlogs every freaking day. So like they needed something to film. So, as soon as we found out it wasn't happening, we're literally like on our phones, like trying to find any animal place within a 3-mile radius of that would let us come film something. And that's whenever we reached out to OBX, the Lizard Land or Ranch, or one of those two. Very cool place, very nice people. So Friday we went and filmed there, and that was 2.5 hours away. After we've been in the car for fucking 10 plus hours, both of us.
What's another 2.5?
Yeah, what's another 2.5? Oh, well, yes, wait. That was the morning. That was the morning. So we drive 2.5 hours to the coast. We film there. Very cool place. Got to feed some emus. Like they had some really cool stuff. If you're in that area, it's definitely worth going. Tell them we sent you. And then Brian had Dennis at Virginia Zoo as a hookup, and so we drive half an hour, 45 minutes north to another fucking state. And we go to the zoo in Virginia. He meets us there. It's a little bit later in the day. It's probably like 2:30, 3 o'clock. Super accommodating to us. Walked us around the whole place. Their reptile house is fucking amazing. Exactly.
I told Dennis that Rob and I needed to plan a trip up there ASAP.
Graze monitor. That's all I have to say.
Graze monitor.
Yeah. I got to see that thing in person. Their Siamese, I think it's a Siamese croc that's in there. That exhibit's fucking awesome. They even have another room. Yeah, they have another room that they can shift the Siamese off exhibit, which is fucking awesome. And it even has a pool in it too. So it's not just like a normal shift. And then they have a window so you can see the animal in the shift, which is also cool. And then you can kind of explain like why like there's the shift area and stuff like that for safety or whatever. And it's cool for training the animal as well. And then they have they have 4 species of tree monitors, just like I do, which was super cool. They said they had some really cool green tree pythons. Actually, they had this one Aru animal that was probably the prettiest Aru I've ever seen. Definitely a lot of white, but it also had like a little bit of yellow coming up the sides. Like it was awesome. It was weird. It almost looked like it might have been a cross, but not really, because it was smaller too. So like, it was just a cool looking animal. It was probably one of my favorite animals seeing there. And then they had all the cages are done by the same company. They're on these huge casters that they can move them around. They're modular, which like to me as a zookeeper, that's freaking amazing. So if you ever want to like change something out, you just move it. The King Cobra has a nice cool shift that is a shift box that they can actually isolate the shift box and the enclosure itself, so that if it ever has to go for a procedure or like for a zoo check or like a vet checkup, it can just be carried in the box that's its shift, which is pretty awesome. So just a lot of cool stuff. And we got to see behind the scenes of all of it, and then we got to go kind of do like a quick tour of like the zoo. Like their giraffe and rhino building was one of the coolest of those buildings that I've ever seen. And apparently it can take like the worst hurricane fucking imaginable, because it's literally he said that it was like cement blocks with rebar in it and then cement poured down into that. So like it could take a bomb probably. So just very, very cool zoo. And then then we had to drive 2.5 hours back, and then the next day, like we were all kind of sitting around, what do we do tomorrow, because like Sunday it's supposed to be an ice storm. And then that's whenever I was like, well, Brian, there's a reptile show, would you want to go to it? And he's like, oh, reptile show, I don't know, like but we talked him into it, and that's where we got to meet Rob at and hang out with Rob for a little bit. Very small show, but like a cool show at the same time. Everybody was super friendly, and I think that was Brian's like biggest reservation about going to another show again was just how he would be received and stuff like that, and because of all the hatred that he's had years ago. And it was nice that they were all like really, really chill about it. And then Sunday we had the ice storm, so we just kind of sat around, did nothing. And then Monday was the filming day, And that was a long day. They didn't really start filming until 4 o'clock, and then we got done around 9. And then at that point, we're like, why even drive a couple hours just to stay in a hotel? So we just stayed down there, because it was still covered by MrBeast too. So like, might as well have the free hotel room instead of paying another one for, because they had already paid for the room. So, and then we both got up Tuesday morning. I drove 11 straight hours. I think Brian drove like 12, 13. And then I got home, around 6 o'clock at night. And it was actually perfect because we left at 7. I didn't hit traffic the whole way, like, because I got through DC like right after rush hour, and then got through New York City right before rush hour. So it was like perfect timing. Got home around 6, unloaded the animals into my place, and then had to take the animals back to Nerd the next day. So that's another 4.5 hours of driving.
Yeah.
So yeah. So by the end, you're just mentally and physically exhausted, and just you're just like, that was really cool, but like, yeah, it was a lot. Yeah, exactly. And that's just Brian's normal fucking during the week. So
yep,
it's amazing how much he actually does, and what, a lot of it like you'll never see because like, you can't put it all in a video, honestly. But I would probably say he's one of the hardest working people in the industry for sure, just because of everything that he's got to do.
Oh yeah, dude, for sure. I mean, he's even said it on his podcast. Like there's you might be super dedicated, but you're not going to outwork him. There's no freaking way you're going to outwork him. I mean, yeah, I think just about every time I've ever gone to visit him, we've had to go to Home Depot at least once. And he's like, "Hey, come on, I'm gonna need help with stuff."
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't come here to go to Home Depot with you, jerk. I think one of the last times I had to like go help him get some doors when he was still building out downstairs and stuff.
Jesus. Well, and then the other crazy part that a lot of people don't like know about him, like the house that he lives in, he built himself.
Yeah.
Like it like. And he was just like, yeah, if I didn't know something, I just went to fucking Lowe's or Home Depot and just asked and, figured it out. And it's like, he built his damn house. Like, none of us could do that shit. You know what I mean? And that was still while he was, breeding snakes. You know what I mean? So, it's just craziness. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely an overachiever.
Yeah. For sure. For sure.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, man. Yeah. Hell yeah. So if you guys haven't already have seen that MrBeast video, go check that out.
And then we're gonna do a little plug. The candy bars. Yeah. These are actually really freaking good. Here, wait, I gotta go this way. So they have almond, they've got quinoa crunch, and they have regular. So like these chocolate bars, they only have like 4 or 5 ingredients in them, so they're not filled with a bunch of like crap. And they taste like a mixture between dark chocolate and milk chocolate, which is kind of interesting. And honestly, like they're super good. Like I would probably take one of these over a Hershey bar. Like they're that good.
Damn.
And that's saying something, because Hershey's are pretty freaking good, and these things are pretty awesome. So,
damn.
And I got to watch 25,000 of them fall from the ceiling. So, yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. In the video, if you can go check it out. Like they literally
God.
They had a forklift, and they had these buckets that literally like they forklifted it up 20 feet in the air, because this building is huge. Like it's the size of Walmart, that has the studio. And they dumped 25,000 candy bars into the room, and it was to release the candy bars, basically. It's like a plug for their candy bar that just got released today. Yeah, so I got to get these candy bars before anybody else, which is kind of cool.
That's cool.
People died, 37 people injured, like
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
death by candy bar.
That was kind of the cool part about everything, is like, they they had 2 goats, which were freaking awesome. They were like these little small miniature goat guys. One was a fainting goat, but we didn't see which one was a fainting goat. We didn't scare them. But yeah, they had. I mean, I can talk about this because like the video's out. They had like the Minecraft room where they literally set off a bomb. But
That's
you know,
amazing.
Hollywood magic and safety. We all evacuated the building whenever the bomb went off. But it doesn't look like that in the video. It looks like we're there. But
Yeah.
it was cool. It was loud. I mean, because it was
Yeah.
it blew some shit up. But yeah, so like, I mean, just the attention to detail like at this place was ridiculous. Like there's a scene, if you guys watch the video, so it's the world's hardest escape room basically, or hardest, or whatever it is. And one of the rooms was a library, and we're talking like the walls are 20 feet high and it's full of books. And like this room is like big. I mean, there was probably 20,000 books, like
Holy
easily.
shit.
Like, and they're real. So it's like
Shit.
just the detail that goes into something like that, like is crazy. And it's like, where the hell did you get all these books? Like, and what are you going to do with them after? Like, so yeah, it was a really cool experience, and I'm definitely glad I got to be part of it, for sure.
Heck yeah, dude. When Brian first hit me up about doing the whole shoot, I don't watch much YouTube, so I'm not really hip to who's cool and who's trending or whatever. But so I was like, well, I guess I should do a little bit of research before going out there and whatever. So I started watching a bunch of his videos, and like, you're right, man. It from just the videos alone, it looks like there's so much attention to detail that gets put in to every single video, and it's like expense is almost like not even a thought. I mean, I watched some video where he's like, I bought like 40 cars, and now we're just gonna like go give them to people, and I'm like,
yeah,
what? What do you?
Yep.
What?
or where he buys the whole grocery store and gives
Yes.
away to charity,
Yeah.
like
Dude, literally walked into a GameStop and it's like, how much can I buy? Like, can I just buy everything in this store? Like, even the shelves, even the shelving units. I'm like, what the hell, dude? How does one react to somebody saying that? Like,
yeah,
what? When he went into the grocery store and they're like, he was like, yeah, after talking with the manager, we realized for the community's sake, I shouldn't buy everything in the store. So I bought half the store. I'm like, what?
And it's the other part that's crazy is you see like all this money being spent, but he puts equally as much into philanthropy, which is even cooler. Yeah. I mean, like how he raised enough money to take 30 million pounds of plastic out of the ocean. Like, that's fucking awesome. I mean, and then he planted for his 20 million followers, it was 20 million trees. So there's a lot of philanthropy stuff, and if you kind of look into it, apparently he has Crohn's disease, and he doesn't know how long he's gonna fucking live. You know what I mean? Like, you can live a while with it, but you can also, like, it can wreck you.
Yeah.
So it just he's one of those people that, like, he wants to give back, at the same time as being like the biggest YouTuber on the fucking planet. And then the other cool thing that he's doing now, he's got like 5 or 6 like channels in English. And then did you see how like now like he's got them in Russian, Indian, Spanish, like all of his channels are in all the other language. Yeah. So like I think he's up to like something crazy, like probably close to 20 channels or something right now, because he does have all the channels in other languages as well. So, and a lot of people don't realize, but India actually watches more YouTube than we do. So, it's really crazy. Like, he could blow up even over there and be making so much more. So, and I think that's the goal, is like, being the biggest YouTuber on the fucking planet. And that's awesome. So
hell yeah. That's like that's like next level dedication to social media, man. Like, seriously.
Yeah. That's bananas.
Yeah. Jesus. Yeah, it's shit that we wouldn't even be able to comprehend, honestly. Like, it's
I'm like, here's an extra buck, go get yourself double. You'll...
Yeah, exactly. two apple pies for $1. Yeah. But yeah, it's it was definitely a cool experience though. But and then I saw somebody put up there
hopefully...
what was the my favorite species to work with. I like the tree monitors. They're really cool. And it's and it's the tree monitors are super cool. They're really smart. But each of the species are like pretty different too, even though they're the same other than color. Like the blues are super shy. But I actually have to have a camera on them just to make sure they're all eating and stuff like that, because they are in like a group together. And then how like I have a little green tree or a little green tree monitor, and she'll come right out of the cage, run up my arm, take food, and then right back in. And then the blacks are also really cool. They're a little bit more shy as well. The yellows are pretty they're not too shy actually. So but I would say the monitors are super cool, but the monkey tail skinks are just a whole other level of because they don't act like reptiles. Like they act like mammals in a lot of ways. They communicate like in with tongue flicks and stuff like that, and it's actually really weird. You can actually, if one is like super scared and like kind of flaring up at you, if you stick your tongue out at them a couple times, they like calm back down. It's super fucking strange, but they're monkey tail skinks.
They're reptile sloths.
Yeah, exactly. That can bite your shit off, like if they want. Like,
bro. Okay, so
sloths can too.
Yeah, sloths definitely can too. I remember Mike Curtin having monkey tails at a White Plains show, and he had it on his head, right? And Mike is bald, so he just had it like on his head. And I remember walking past his table maybe 20 minutes later, and it wasn't on his head anymore. And I was like, "Oh man, what happened?" And he like takes off his hat, and you just see this giant bite mark on the back of his head. And I was like, "Ooh, God!" Like, not interested in that at all.
No, I actually have a video of one of my it was probably a year and a half old at the time, and I was feeding it a baby carrot, and you know how like hard those things are to break. It literally snapped it right in half, like nothing. And it's just like, for an animal that's like 200 grams to like snap a fucking baby carrot in half, like there's some fucking bite force. Like whenever I'm a 200-pound human and it's hard for me to break it,
and you're
like,
and
then, that would suck real bad.
Yeah.
So,
oh my gosh.
Yep.
Damn. All right, so we are rounding out our time together, but we always ask our guests one final question. So Matt, that question is what in the realm of reptiles, be it something you saw on social media, something in your own collection, what in the realm of reptiles has got you excited about reptiles?
Honestly, like, and this isn't to like inflate myself at all, but it's like I'm excited with my personal collection because it's like
it sounds pretty self-inflating.
Well, no, because like it's one of those things where like for probably 6 years I struggled with keeping reptiles because of how I got out of the hobby and stuff like that. And I mean, probably like Rob could even attest to this. Whenever I was up at Nerd, like working up there, like I was very like kind of hope people don't realize who the fuck I am. And that's kind of weird, like where you could be such a public figure for so long, and then all of a sudden you just don't even want people to know who you are. And I think like now, like it's finally coming back, and like being on shows like this, and like I did that 10-part series on Leopard Geckos, and it's great to be like part of the community again, because I felt like kind of like Brian, where like you feel like the community hates you, and it's one of those things where like I met so many great friends like through the reptile industry, and like just and not just like talking reptiles with them, but just life, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And and it's one of those things that I think, especially during pandemic times and stuff like that, whenever we didn't really have much. I mean, we didn't even have shows, and to be able to reach out to, you know, people and just talk with them about reptiles and shit. And, you know, probably Rob got super depressed whenever he couldn't do his like educational shows as much and stuff. Cause like that's a big part of his life. And it's just like, you know, you know, to have reptiles again and really be excited about them, is like a huge step for me. And I think that's one of the things that I'm most excited about here. As far as like the reptile hobby or community as a whole, it's like, you know, you hope it goes in a really good direction, and like some people, you know, start, you know, doing really great things with it. I wish that zoos and private sector would work together. Like I said, I don't know how that would be possible, but if it could happen, I think, you know, major milestones could be reached. I mean, if you could put the best minds of both together, I mean, we could breed everything and literally like solve a lot of like
thousands of species from extinction.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly. Yeah. So, you know, there's something that I am hopeful of is that, because, you know, you gotta save the animals, man.
Hell yeah. And I wanna shout out just to say, because I think I loved listening to the series. You should check out the series that Matt did with Evan over at the Strength and Leo's podcast. Like a whole, like Matt's entire story, but also just like leopard geckos and like how all of it came to be. It was really in depth. And Rob knows I don't listen to many podcasts at all. It's hard for me to just click into talking, but that I absolutely loved listening to that, and it was great to hear more of the story, because you and I have talked about a few things over the years, but to really get the full picture of it was was quite interesting. So I would definitely suggest everybody go check that out over at the Strength and Leo's podcast, because it's well worth it.
I appreciate that, and it's definitely one of those things where we did one test episode type of thing, and we didn't even scratch the surface of stuff. And it was, you know, like I said, it was during COVID, and right at the same time, you know, The Last Dance had come out with Michael Jordan and like his final season and stuff like that. So we kind of like were like, well, what if we did like a long series about everything? And that's how we kind of came about it. And it took about a year to get all of them done. So it was a long process for sure.
Yeah. Heck yeah. All right, Matt. So if people want to find out more about you and follow what you're doing, you know, if you're taking more bar check trips or whatever, you know, where can they find out more about you?
Okay, so the business page is Sasobek Reptiles on YouTube or on Facebook. It's also the Sasobek Reptiles on YouTube. Those ones are more business-ish stuff. The Instagram, I'll show a little bit of, you know, my life and business stuff. That's more of like me on the daily. My personal Facebook, probably don't friend request me because I won't accept you unless I know who you are.
Yep.
I keep that one pretty close. I mean, it's probably only 400 or 500 people, and you know, it's not that I don't want to be friends with everybody, but you know, there's that personal side that only people that I know who you actually are get to see that one. But yeah, the Instagram one's probably the one that I use the most.
Bam.
At this point.
Heck yeah, dude. Well, thank you for
coming on, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
No problem. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely.